Hello, everyone, and welcome to KSO Front Row, the Kamloops Symphony's web series that brings you up close and gives you a look into what we do right from your very own home or wherever you may be watching this. My name is Daniel Mills, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kamloops Symphony. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm presently speaking from Kamloops to Secwepemc within the unceded traditional lands of the Secwepemc Nation, and I'd also like to acknowledge all of the native lands on which you are gathered across the globe. We are very grateful to be spread out over such a beautiful planet that we can call home. Before I introduce the two stars of today's session, I do want to offer a few thank yous. Of course, we want to thank our public funders who have stepped up in a major way to ensure the Kamloops Symphony and arts organizations across the country can continue operating, specifically the BC government through the BC Arts Council and the Government of Canada through the Canada Council for the Arts. As well, thank you to all our donors, sponsors, and volunteers who have continued their support of us during this time. All of you are ensuring that we're here for the long term as we explore new concert formats and alternative programming to suit our current circumstances. Clearly, if you're watching this, you likely already know about our current project, The Phantom of the Opera, so I will hold on most of those details for now, but needless to say, we're very excited for this multi-angle concert experience. And if you were watching the segment before November 29th and don't already have your tickets, we encourage you to get them now. If you do already have them, thank you very much. And today you're in for a sneak peek of the project, a chance to learn about the music behind this multi-angle digital concert-going experience right from the composer himself. But before that, a few other announcements. Those of you in Kamloops will be thrilled to hear that Barb's used book and music sale is back, and it's a regular full-size edition running November 14th through the 28th here in Kamloops. This is a pivotal fundraiser for the orchestra, and we invite you to come check it out. We're also still looking for volunteers, so if you have some time to spare, we'd love to have you take part. Please contact us for more information or visit our website. As well, on the fundraising front, as many of you know, in the summer, I made the personal pledge to run every single city street in Kamloops, all as a fundraiser for the symphony. And as of today, I've run over 450 kilometers, and that's over 40 hours of running, and I'm about halfway there. And we're expecting snow tonight, so my journey is going to get a lot more interesting starting tomorrow morning. So, but if you are interested in pledging your support of my journey, please do check out our website for more information. So now about today. Well, KSO Front Row, the series which you are watching, was created as a way to further engage with all of you while we pivot our programming within our current circumstances. And today's session does not feature me, but music director Dina Gilbert and a very special guest who is crucial in making sure our Phantom of the Opera project was possible. Today's session is meant to be interactive, so if you are watching it live, we welcome you to submit your own questions in the live chat feature on YouTube, and we'll try to get to them as we go. We will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end to answer all your burning questions. So thanks to my colleague Ryan, who's editing this on the go behind the scenes. Again, we've tried to work out as many kinks as we can through the online streaming platforms, but we do ask for your patience if any technical issues arise. Well, that's enough for me, so let's get to business. So I'd like to introduce our guests for today. The first is no stranger to all of you and our very own music director, Dina Gilbert. I'd like to welcome Dina to the screen.
Hello.
There she is. Hello, how are you doing?
Super good.
Good, and where are you tonight?
I'm in Montreal, as the same will be, but I'm coming on Saturday, so I'm really looking forward to the rehearsal for this outstanding production.
And we'll have some snow just for you.
Yeah, perfect.
And all right, and so now on to our second very special guest. We are thrilled to have the composer of the score himself that will be performing shortly, speaking to us live from Montreal as well, Gabriel Thibodeau. This Canadian composer, pianist, and conductor studied piano in Montreal, the Vincent Dandy School and Composition at l'Université de Montréal. He started work at the age of 15 as a pianist for ballets, and since then has been a pianist for Les Grands Ballets Canadiens, has been appointed as the pianist at la Cinémathèque Québécoise for the last 30 years, and is a composer in residence for l'Actuel de France for more than 20 years. So his work includes music for ballets, opera, chamber music, and several orchestral compositions for silent film, which is particularly relevant in today's presentation. And several international institutions have commissioned work from him, including the Musée du Louvre in Paris and the Festival de Cannes. So we're so glad to have him join us today for a special edition of KSO Front Row. It's so rare that we can have an actual living composer talk to us about their work, so we're very excited. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the screen our very special guest, composer, pianist, and conductor, Gabriel Thibodeaux.
Hi. Hi, Dina. Hi, everyone.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's great to have you. And we're just so thrilled to be be able to work with your music and for this exciting project in the new circumstances. So without further ado, I think I'll just leave it right to you two, and I'll get out of the screen. And I'm very excited to hear what you have to say. So thanks, and have a great conversation.
And see you again.
Whenever you want, you can join us.
All right.
Donc, Gabriel, on va parler en français vu qu'on est les deux à Montréal. No, I'm joking. It's just...
Possiamo farlo in italiano.
Yeah. So it's such a pleasure to be able to discuss with you about this fascinating project, since for me, you've been such an inspiration. And I need to tell a little bit the story about how I got the chance to meet you, because this was when I was a doctorate student at Université de Montréal, doing my orchestral doctorate and doing, the standard repertoire, Brahms, Beethoven, and everything. And then at one point, someone asked me, would you be interested to assist those wonderful rehearsals? There's a new project. It will take form for 3 years with the Cinémathèque Québécoise, having Gabriel Thibodeaux then coaching some composers so they can write for silent film of Buster Keaton, Félix Lechat, and such cartoons, but also you are also to conduct your own productions as well, such as The Phantom of the Opera. So I got the first rehearsal and I was hooked from that point on, because I realized how fascinating it was and how challenging it was to follow a movie, and how it was to be good for my technique, actually, because then you get some similitude with accompaniment for soloists, for ballet, for many things. It's like if you're trying to work with a really stubborn soloist when you need to work with a film that will go on. So I have to say that it was the start of something that was to bring a lot of excitement in my career, because thanks to you, I've been discovering the joy of conducting cine concert, but also the joy of playing new music and how essential it is and how vibrating it is to be creating such moment with the audience. So thanks to you. And then I hope people will understand a little bit more about the unique path you have in your career with the discussion we have tonight. So do you recall a bit about this project of 3 years with Université de Montréal?
Oh, yes, of course. I have an incredible memory. And I remember especially to see you. You were looking like if you were 18 years old. Slightly grown up, a teenager. But I remarked you really on the spot. You always have been very precise and always taking care of everything, and I appreciated it very, very much, since it was a bit special when I arrived at the Université de Montréal to do these master classes, because I was it was a place where I studied. It was actually Vincent d'Indy in my years, but it was really fun to meet all the people, all the young composers who wanted to do something totally different. And this is the I think with the silent films, and to do the accompaniment and to conduct it is, as you said, it's quite challenging, but it's a path that is really, it will give you a scope incredible, especially if you are doing the accompaniment for many films. So all you will learn, even from the films, is incredible. It's a bit like conducting ballets. Ballets too, they have stories, and even every composer has a different story to tell. But there is a sort of stiffness, but freedom at the same time.
Yeah. It's a mix of both. You're right. Yeah.
And what's really interesting, especially that I'm still alive, is the fact that, well, there are some people who may know my music, but not much. So if you are conducting and people are liking the music, it's not because they know the music. It's because they enjoyed it very much. especially that you will perform it, because of course you can go and hear da-ba-dum, da-ba-dum, da-ba-da-dum, da-ba-dum, da-ba-dum, da-da-dum, bum, and then people say, oh, that's beautiful, I know it. But now the audience doesn't know it, but you know the story of Phantom of the Opera, and then and then
Also, from the first time you listen Gabriel's music, you're hooked again, because this is just showing so much of what we want to know from the movie, and it's so in link with the emotions of the characters, and it's adding so much to the expressivity of and the climax of the film that I mean, you will be different at the end of this movie. Or I mean, I wouldn't even imagine to doing it. Watching this movie 90 minutes in complete silence. And maybe we should explain a little bit why it was normal to have music at the beginning of the silent film, because the need of this to hide a little bit the projector noise, and also how scary it was probably for people being sitting in a place in the dark and not knowing what is going to happen. This was so new that, like, can you explain a little bit why it was essential and meaningful to have music at
very, very, very beginning of the showing of cinema? That was a sort of a circus attraction. So people were into a tent, and suddenly they could see images moving, and they were really afraid. And well, they got used quite fast, and so that's why you could hear the movie projectionist was cranking it, quick. After a while, people was in the dark, so they said, "Oh, maybe we should have a bit of music," and they started to have music to especially to have a pianist. And then they started to show films in the cafes and vaudeville. They were doing vaudeville acts, and at that time there were always a small orchestra doing music, so you could go and have a big drama like this, and music was the tune of the day. But it was a big drama on the screen, and people were having a beer, listening to the music and watching images, and sometimes not doing the connection between the two of them. And there were some, especially in the States, at the beginning of the 20s, people were saying, well, we should have maybe a proper music with the image. And then these people were thinking about it, but why was it silent? This is something quite interesting. It was most of the cinema has been shot in 35 millimeters, like what we used to have when I was young, the camera Kodak, and it was the same film, same thing, and the moving image was just small images, same format, but going fast, so you have this impression of movement. But since it was end crank, they couldn't have a stable speed for the film. So people were having a metronome and singing songs when they were filming. But there were no means to be able to sync this recorded sound, because at that time it was possible to record via the gramophone, with wax cylinders. It was possible to have a recording, but it was impossible to synchronize it. And when everybody decided that in around 1927, they commercially released a machine to shoot the films with an electrical motor. So then it was possible to say, okay, now we will be able to record the sound, but with a small strip on the side of the film. So it will be just like it's the same principle than the 33 vinyl disc, except that instead of having the plastic, it's just a strip of light, and so it was a light captor that was catching the light and then transposing it into sound. And then we could have the beautiful sound. So there were, at that time, when they released sound films, there were a lot of people that were saying, well, sound films were more interesting because we could hear our nice orchestra. Even in places like Carnegie Hall, they had a beautiful orchestra for the cinema, and people were going for the orchestra, and they say, what the orchestra is going to play tonight? Okay, they are going to play a Charlie Chaplin. Oh, that's fine.
And sometimes there were even like some books, right? With like, okay, if you have a romantic scene, let's try this. So kind of like a draft or canvas in which, okay, if there's a rain or if there's a chase or something, you have something you can hold on that will make sense with what we know from music intuitively, kind of thing. Can you discuss a little bit about?
It's about cliches. It's about cliches, and this is quite important. Of course, when the people who did this collection of movements from symphonies and operettas and stuff like that, they used what they thought could match the film, especially when there were a romantic scene. It was always Romeo and Juliet from Tchaikovsky, and it was but in fact, the music has no relation to it. It's just that people had made the connection previously to do it. And just this morning, I thought about how frightening my music can be in Phantom, because there are some orchestra who were saying that sometimes they were afraid to play the music at some point. And I thought, what's the biggest cliche in horror films? And this is a piece that's been written by a guy almost 300 years ago, and it's going like this. Ba 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 ba. But I'm quite sure that Bach, writing this toccata and fugue, was not thinking about horror movies or even about horror. And so it's just a cliche. It does nothing to do. So even to write the music for some film is to work with cliches, because it's always a cliche. It's always a
making pastiche from something, or
or even if you are doing a completely new, completely contemporary score over it, unless you are not looking at the screen, you will do a sort of cliche, because it's possible to do. I'm quite sure. Can you hear? Okay. Yep. So I was doing. So what's the tune? So it's Star Trek. Okay. So it's there are some tunes like this who are like a. So I played 4 notes, but everybody knows the tune. So there's been so many cliches. But if I'm doing exactly the same thing, then it's supposedly a more contemporary language, but it will be the same cliche.
And even like John Williams been retaking so many motifs
from gold,
and spring in his music, that people now don't necessarily have the Stravinsky reference, but for classical musicians, when we are listening both of these themes, sometimes in the same tone and everything, you're like, okay,
for Star Wars, and that's the joy of this thing. I think at least composers of my generation, we still do have this knowledge of the music of the past, and I think it's quite important then, so we can at least use it at the best. And because I think nobody has the pretension to be extremely original, because you have to stick with the images that has been shot a few years ago. Except that human being haven't changed much since. And sometimes it's really weird, because there are some people who are saying, oh, it's an old movie. It has been shot in 2010, and at that time they were doing, yeah, sure. Now then, talk about, for instance, you are 18. Of course, something that has been shot in 10 years ago, you were 80. You were 8 years old. So it's very old. But for me, when they released Phantom in 1925, my grandmother was 35 years already, and I knew my grandmother. I talked to her, and so it's not that far. It's really not that far from me. But
and she's been watching it actually, or
no, she never saw it. No. Or maybe, who knows? But she never told me.
No. And do you recall the first time you watched it, The Phantom of the Opera?
Oh yeah. I was it was a few years after I started to play at La Cinémathèque Québécoise, so it was in 1990. I started at 1988, playing every Friday for Silent Film live in front of the audience at La Cinémathèque in Montréal. And the projectionist told me, well, next month you're going to play for Phantom of the Opera. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I don't know the film. So he said, have a look. And so I went to our documentation center. I took the VHS cassette. I brought it home, and I started to watch it. I thought it was quite interesting. But when I was about the half of it, I fell asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, of course. Because, well, with the boring music and, with all the scratches and, and on a small TV set, with snow into it, of course, when they were playing them. And that was, and then I watched it again. I said, well, that's quite interesting. So I read the book from Gaston Leroux, and I worked quite a lot. And to arrive and write a sort of the pre-arrangement of what you will hear later during the month, with all the sequences from Faust of Gounod, because you can see in the film that they are showing Faust, even though there is a poster of it. And it's really obvious. Even the singers on the stage are singing famous songs from Faust. So I arranged this for a soprano, and I was playing at the piano. But there were some scenes that, for instance, even the ball. So I did a sequence on the computer, and it was starting to play alone. But I was blowing over it at the piano, but sometimes even out of keys, out of tune, and it was quite something to have mechanical stuff along with the film, and I was playing at the piano, and the soprano was singing. That was quite something, and in between, so I was improvising either at the piano or either on the synthesizer. And in the hall, there were the director of marketing, and she said, "Could you write it for full orchestra?" I said, yes, of course. She said, okay, fine.
And what was the challenge about this, actually? Because now we have way more technologies these days about calculating the pacing, rhythm of the speed, let's say, of the movie. But in this case, it's really particular when we get to silent film, because sometimes we have many versions of the same movie, sometimes just by a projectionist touch. Many things will change, and will change then the speed of the music. So what was your experience with these challenges writing the music for the Phantom?
Yeah, when you say sometimes, no, it's
all the time. We are always about this problem all the time.
First of all, so I started to write music with the cassette, which was running at 24 frames per second, which is the standard at that time for television in North America. So I started and I showed it to the director of La Cinémathèque, and he said, "It's all wrong." I said, "What's wrong? It's not the right speed. It should be slower." And he said it should be at 20 frames per second. I said, well, but I have my video cassette. I just can't slow it down. So we bought a copy, a 35 millimeter print of the copy in Los Angeles, and we went to a laboratory and we did a copy at 20 frames. Yeah, we had to transfer, but at that time to do a transfer like this was costing maybe $4,000.
And many, how much time it was taking even to just
maybe at least 1 week. So that's it. And so all my music was, I had to rewrite it.
Because a few frames per second are a big deal when you get to metronome markings. And I recall one actually traumatizing, learning experience when I was doing the Buster Keaton, or I guess at the Cinémathèque Québécoise, we're doing different short movie, and this was all the works where we're having new original music from the students. Mm-hmm. And now I was getting, comfortable about the show because it was the 4th day in a row we were presenting it. And each time in between the films, the projectionist was, stopping the band or stopping the film, I guess, in which they were all there. And at one point we start and I'm like, how come I'm like that late? I'm 1 bar late, and then cueing the percussionist player. And then, oh my God, this is faster than usual. And I was just like, at one point you memorize the tempi with the size of your gesture and everything kind of makes sense. But then I was saying there's something wrong. And I could see all the musicians, because of course they have no clue. They just follow us whenever is going on. But it was the 4th day. So I just saw all of them, at the tip of their chair suddenly. And then I recall like a kind of march was maybe usually 120, and we finished the film, and then I finished in the black, and all the musicians were like, okay, she's not crazy, we really finished in time, but what the hell, what was that, Yeah. And then we finished the screening, and I was just like, not really understanding what could have gone wrong. So I was just like, what really happened? Mm-hmm. And then I just saw the projectionist coming to me and, oh, Dina, I'm really sorry. It's just when I start back the movie, I kind of switched the speed. So I switched it probably, I guess, 24 instead of 20 or something. So I was just, okay, at first I'm not crazy. Secondly, I then learned how something can be changing really quickly when you're live in a concert.
Yeah. Especially when it's a short films like that, they were not shoot at the same speed. So projectionist should be quite alert, because in between you should just change the speed of the film between the reels, and especially these shows, there were really one project. We were using 3 projectors, one in 16 millimeters and 2 in 35, and sometimes there were some film on 16, but you had to switch the speed. And nowadays there are not many machines like this. For instance, there is one in Vancouver, one at the light box in Toronto. In Vancouver is Pacific Cinémathèque, and in Toronto the light box, and the other one is in Montreal at La Cinémathèque Québécoise. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. So I the experience, and there was something.
Yeah, but it's quite subtle. It's just you can have a copy. It's running at the right speed, but at very end, after an hour and a half, maybe there will be a difference of 20 seconds, and the musicians will say, "Well, it was a bit fast today."
And it can be many different things from this, or you explained to me as well, just from the weight.
The weight of the rolls, to keep as the speed as steady as possible. It's on reels that are about that big, and usually at sound speed it's running for 20 minutes. So when it's done, the second projector is starting, but. So you can imagine that it's all the weight is on the reel in the up, but it's quite heavy, so it's slowing. It's slow because it's heavy, but as it's going into the reel down, well, it's getting faster. So if you are alternating, that's not too bad. But if you are using what then was the what in commercial cinema before the digital era, so it was on it's called a plateau, so it's a large plate, and they were putting all the films together, all the reels together, so it was very heavy. So at the very beginning it was really slow, but at the center the right speed, and the very end very fast, but at the same with the same length. Yeah. So
these,
and it's, classical musicians are used, they like to be like in loafers and in pajamas, and they like their music to be always the same, and conductor will do exactly the same thing, and it's comfortable, and that's very nice. And when it's written mezzo piano, you should play mezzo piano, but if nothing is written, it's and and then when are coming things like this, where there are so many occasions of that you have to be always on the edge of your chair, and the conductor will be the first one to see the film. Is, wow, something's going, something wrong is going on, and I could have seen you with a small hamster in your head spinning.
Yeah, it's like that 1 or 2 seconds of reaction that you just like react fast.
And then you're starting to think, how am I going to
and how am I going to get back on
there? And you're conducting just something. Now I will do this and this and this and this. No, it's really something. And then you do this to the musician. Look at me, and cut. Okay, next. On y va. Yeah.
And actually, before going back to this subject, and even I have some pictures of the score with some annotation. I would like the audience to see a little bit some of the, I would say, highlight pictures from the movie, with also a little bit of your audio from one of the chasing themes that we have in the film.
Okay.
So Ryan, please. So, of course, just a few images, but that you probably saw so many times from, of course, conducting this work all around the world. And this is just like one bit of one theme, and there's so many different various expressive theme in your music. What do you think is making this movie special? And why is it so important in the repertoire of the horror, let's say, or the beginning of horror movie?
What's so important? It's just that it's just a mythical story, mythical in a term that it's intemporal story of the guy who is hiding, but has a lot of talent, but everybody's saying, well, it's really awful. And that's this, and it's a universal story, because I think everybody at one point in their lives thinking I'm horrible and nobody loves me. And that's, yeah, at one point, I think it's a story that everybody can relate to at one point, not all the time, of course. But, and then, so I remember when I wrote the music, I just took this path. And some people who knew the film really before me, so older people, were saying, well, Gabriel, I never saw the film like this, because for me, Phantom was just this horrible guy, just a psychopath, and just doing bad things. And the way that I scored it, well, I think I was really trying to get him more human, just so that people could identify with the guy, although he was horrible. But who is an angel?
Oh, good point. And
Yeah.
can you discuss a little bit about how Lon Chaney actually made it? I mean, it was a super crucial, important role for him, and he really took it seriously, because he even made his own makeup.
Yeah.
I think also that the actress Mary Philbin didn't see his actual makeup of whenever she was to see the first time his appearance, so it would be real. And I think people were even passing out at the screening.
Yeah. And at that time, yes, but even today, some friends of mine were saying, well, I will bring my children to see it's a silent film, so it's fun. And there were children crying, getting under the seat. It's no. So that was quite an achievement. And Lon Chaney was he was known as the man with
of 1,000 faces.
Of 1,000 faces, because he was always, he did also a Hunchback of Notre Dame. So it was and again with a lot of stuff into the inside, and he was the guy with the makeup, and also he was very good acting for the silent films, because his parents were deaf.
Mm-hmm.
So he was used to act everything without any noise, and that was a big point. And finally, in all the films that he appeared, is always the guy who is either handicapped or having something special, and is always suffering in his movies. And that, I think, it was maybe his character. He was like this.
But his character, and from what I've read, he was also super difficult on set, because he had his way of like, this should be this way.
Yes.
So the set of the movie were fabulous. Everybody was agreeing on this, but the way the story was to be filmed and narrated and acted was, to what I understood, quite difficult in the discussion between the director and Lon Chaney, in which someone needed to be the messenger in between both of them, because they couldn't like.
Yeah, but especially for Phantom, the Julian Rupert, the director, was known, but not as well known as Lon Chaney. So it was, I think the studio, which is still the same studio, it's Universal, it still exists. They said, okay, we'll put this guy is able to do the job, but Lon Chaney will really direct it. But of course, there's been conflicts. Nowadays, when they shoot a film, there is never any conflicts. So no, nothing changed. Really.
Nothing changed. It was already already the same pattern. I guess the movie could have also been a failure, and let's say, because they changed a few things, right? The ending at first was even instead of being thrown out in the canal for the Phantom, ending is life like this, being thrown out into the water. It was to be him having a broken heart and falling on his organ, kind of thing. So they've been changing and adapting a few things, revising, editing, because they felt that it was not strong enough. So this final cut is better, of course.
Different.
Let's say. I've been able to see in the DVD some of those cuts, scenes that are interesting to watch. But I agree that this ending is sudden but efficient, with then the character being a little bit evil till the end.
I think the what they achieved with Phantom of the Opera is really the essence of the American movie. So you have love story, you have some horror and some laughs, and at the very end there is a pursuit. There is a race at the very end. So, and even the speed of the camera has been they shot it slower so that it would run faster on the movie projector. So, and even everything speeding up, but really on the screen. So, but if you look at a lot of films, American films today, it's the same pattern. So this love story, somebody's doing something, but it's not going okay, and so there is this catharsis, and then at the very end there is pursuit, and then it's done. So it's, well, if you look at even films you are looking at Netflix, and you'll have the same structure. So that's why you, when you were saying that, well, it's really best, but it's what the people are now used to see. At that time, I'm not sure, especially in Europe. In Europe, people were saying, well, that's life. Life is not always finishing with a happy end or a race at the very end and then oof. No way. Usually life is just going on, and you are alone with yourself, or you are happy, but who knows. So that's why I think it was different, since it was a French novel. So I think Lon Chaney was aware of European culture, and he was torn in between. I think he really wanted to be as close to the novel as possible. But of course, somebody was paying behind and say, "Hey, come on."
Yeah. There's something special also in this movie, since it's black and white, though there are some places where there's a little bit of color, right? So can you explain a little bit this process that was quite new, the Technicolor aspect of adding color to the movie, to the pellicule?
It's not adding colors. It was the way they shooted it with 3 cameras and putting in different negatives, and there were one with and it's the same image, but they were tinting one in red and the other one in green, and the other one is black and white, and put the three prints all together, and then suddenly you could see the colors. And that's quite impressive, but there is a predominance of green and red. But this process was costing a lot, because you had to put like 3 layers of films. So at the origin, they were planning to shoot all the film in Technicolor. And then they realized it was not possible. It would cost so much to do copies of this. So they decided that the ball sequence would be great, especially that it's really inside the recreation of Le Palais Garnier, so the Paris Opera. And so it's quite impressive, because people were saying, "Oh, wow!" But it was really the first extensive Technicolor scene of the commercial cinema that people could have seen at that time.
And I mean, I find it always surprising at one point, at the middle, in the central part, to then see a little bit of color. I find it really interesting.
There are some places, well, in the film, there are some tintings. Well, they're just putting the film into.
So these were the filter of this, the filter a century ago, instead of the filter we know on our phones these days.
Yeah, but in fact, they were just putting it into paint. The actual film was in the copies, not the negative. Negative was always in black and white, but then they were tinting the copies, and then now there is night, so they were tinting it in blue, and that was the mechanical process of doing it.
And do you recall a scene that was super easy or super difficult to come up with a music idea to compose? You recall, oh my God, this scene I like spent hours trying to find, or some were like super easy because I don't know.
I think if I can recall, the first thing that I wrote was my sort of love scene, the love music, and it was I don't remember exactly where I started it. To be honest, I don't remember. But with this, which is and then I was transposing it, and then I used it as also the main theme, of the beginning of the film. So it's always, and all through the film is always those three notes all the time, and there is even a place that.
Yes, I think we have when it gets
always these three notes, and all the film has been based on these three notes. But the very beginning was really, I was so romantic at that, so romantic. It was so painful to see the poor phantom like this. It was. And then just a few years ago, I listened to, I think it was first concerto of Rachmaninoff, and so then I discovered that, well, it was exactly the same thing in the concerto, same tune, same three notes, but of course the treatment is different. But it was
one small motif can create
an old movie, and really from beginning to the end, this is it. Towards the end, there is a fugue doing but at bass, cantus firmus will so everything is based on it. I was proud of it.
And now we'd like our audience to see a little bit how it looks like. I'm sure my score will be way more annotated than yours, because I'm always, as you know, me through the years, I'm always putting so many colors and things. But just so people have an understanding of course, I still have the music, the notes and everything, but I'm adding also some cues, and you have it in your score as well. Cues about who's coming back at the screen, or what the phantom is doing, because these kind of cues are helping me out and helping us as conductor to find the right timing, so we finish a scene, then start the next tempo and all of this. Because of course we don't have the time code, we don't have any of the new technologies that I'm used to work with for, let's say, if I'm conducting an E.T. or John Williams movie, or The Artist. All these screening pretty much nowadays are having a lot of technologies. But there's plus and minus to this, because like I was discussing with you, I've learned first without these references, then learned with it. There's so much more freedom actually when you can just have your full attention with what is going on with the orchestra, and having that natural path of this time, and it's fun actually, because this time there's this happening, but I'm just gonna slow down tiny bit more, stretching at the end before, and then I will catch back the natural breathing that is there. So I'm wondering, Ryan, if we could show the picture where there's one page of score. It's just a reference and small idea about all those post-it that are written there are either a character movement or something. Sometimes it's also the title cards that are there expressing something. And through this, I'm able to then make sure that the film will be synchronized, and as much as possible coming from a black, going back to the next image, so we get back to the ball, or we get back to all these different scenes in which. What I found interesting in your music is also that each location has a specific theme that we can transform at times. Yes, sometimes with the character, the romance and everything, but we can also see the different mood and atmosphere from these different places. And I find this really interesting to get the structure of the film and the structure then of everything going on into this. So it's like if the themes coming back are then well known as Mozart and kleine Nachmusik that you were playing at the beginning. Since we're redoing this, the way we can be hooked and we know we know what is going on or not, depending of how the music is done. So this was just a small example about how it is for 90 minutes long. And this is also one of the challenge for the musicians we start, no break, and we see at the end. So each time I'm doing this kind of concert, I feel it's almost like skydiving, but for way longer, because it's only at the end that you're like, okay, we made it. Because the goal is you finish at the end. There's no small break or you need to go with it. And I'm sure you've been through the experience so many times that I find always that when I'm finishing those concerts, it's really exciting, but also really, comment je pourrais dire? I'm always grateful for that experience because it's way more adrenaline than any kind of other concert. So it's in a way, but
it depends. Just go conduct Beethoven at the Berliner Symphony, and then tell me if your art is not going like this.
I need first to be there to get there. That's different.
But it's different challenge, and I think is what I like, as you said, is with silent films we have the privilege to be creative while conducting, and that's not. Well, you can be creative as a conductor, of course, but you try to keep everything in place but with this you have to interact with something which is supposedly won't move, and with the musicians will move, although it's the same speed. Well, musicians will have a different day, and sometimes with exactly the same copy from one day at the same theater with the same thing. I had some people were saying, well, the film was faster today. No way. But they were tired.
Feeling, yeah. As working with that ballet dancer, same feeling as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Except that film is going like this. And what is, as you said, was really interesting is you can feel that suddenly they like to play it, and then so you can just breathe with the music, and you know that, well, in a few bars you will have to stop it and then go on something else. But sometimes I like it so much. Musicians, they love it, and so I let them do the music, and the scene is changing, and then suddenly just okay. Now.
So then you just have a new challenge about okay.
And then I know that I'll get faster, although it might not be fast, the music, but I will do it faster. But I let the people play, and that's the point of having an orchestra.
Totally.
Otherwise, you just put the disc or push the button on your DVD or your streaming, and that's it. And that's the main interest in silent film with orchestra, is the fact also that even the audience is having an importance on the score, because of course when the audience is reacting, it's a challenge also for the musicians, because musicians are not used that, especially in the symphony, they are not used that people will react.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I recall that the first time at the Cinematheque where kids were just like, oh, and pointing out to the screen, and it's true. It was super special for us musicians to hear that. And of course, this is normal. And I recall also that you were saying, hey, parents, it's fine if your kids are reacting. This is fine. It's their first experience at the movie. It's totally fine. And I was finding it really interesting.
And even with adults, I'm conducting a score on a film called The Man Who Laughs, and at the very end, the dog is saving. Of course, it's an American movie. Is getting on the bad guy, and well, all across Europe, well, it's just a dog who's coming there. But in the States, when we presented it, when the dog is going to the throat of the bad guy, everybody was like, yeah. So, and it could be rare in a symphonic hall to hear that kind of sound.
Yeah, totally.
But it's encouraging the musicians.
Mhm.
So the public can influence the soundtrack.
Mhm.
This is the only place in cinema when it's happening.
In
And
our case, though, we won't unfortunately have an audience live, but
yeah,
what we wanted to bring up is the fact that, I mean, people will be watching the film, will be having different cameras in which they can
oh yeah,
see musicians playing
okay.
on the side. So they
Uh-huh.
get the feeling of what it is for us to also play soundtrack music and to have the feeling of this essential part through the movie. So this will be the way, because in BC, yes, we have different restriction, different policies and such, but we wanted to pursue for sure this experience. But we hope people watching will get that feeling.
But I think I think they will get the concept that it's not a canned music.
No. Mm-hmm.
And it's a once in a lifetime experience.
Mm-hmm.
Every time it's a different experience. Every time.
And I wanted to just do a small parenthesis about what are the ways in which today sometimes we do some more modern film, let's say. So I had some pictures from Ryan from when I did the Red Violin movie from François Girard. So you can see, for example, this was in Festival de la Naudière. So you're seeing I have like big headset here. I'm having the small screen in front of me, then the score. Of course, then there was fabulous Lara St. John as violinist there, redoing all the soundtrack played and recorded by Joshua Bell. And in this case, this was challenging because, you know, if we do the opposite, you know, when we do usually the music for soundtrack, it's at the end of the production, the film is done, then we do the music, and then they might do some edits still. But we might also do it in several tracks before we get the fine tuning of the perfect track in which the soundtrack will be. So for us, when we get back to doing the live, we need to make that perfectly accurate thing. Even though sometimes in the edit montage here, this they've been cutting this bar or they've been stretching here and there, and that doesn't make sense anymore with, let's say, John Corigliano's score at first. So I recall the struggle, also the different challenges that was in this case, and also because since there was then orchestra playing live on the screen, then we needed to be super accurate. So therefore, the clicks were useful at times and everything, but in modern films, there's not like 90 minutes long straight music from beginning to end. So you have like those kind of rest time, getting back in your getting back in a rest mode, then going back. So it's a different kind of feeling. And in this way, if we can switch pictures, Ryan, please. Then, for example, when Lara, she'd been looking so many times at the movie, and she had discussion with François Girard about who was a real actor violinist and who wasn't, and she could tell from the different tracks, obviously, in this. And the last picture. So this is how we get to work. Then in this case, there's so many, we have the time code there, the different scenes, the clicks in ear. But I have to say that now I'm going more towards this is useful, but whenever possible, if I can just like move them back and not use them after, and just having the feeling it's way, you're more connected and you're more fulfilled as a musician and a conductor to be fully present with the sound of the musicians whenever possible. So that's how the last time I did the artists soundtrack with OSM, outside of one sequence where they are doing tap dancing, and of course it was not a perfect metronome, and then we needed the track. I just thought, no, I want to try it to see if it's better just with the visual effect without having the metronome. So then, like you say, we can be more, because each orchestra will have a different way of phrasing or arriving to the climax at some place, and you don't want to be always in fight with these things. So you need to kind of just find the right way to make it work for everyone, and for people to have a good experience. Thank you, Ryan. Yes. Anyways, so there's so many things about the screening. I was wondering, what do you feel is changing? Because now these days, it looks like it's trendier than ever. Now in Montreal at Place des Arts, now there's like a lot of big production work coming with this. I found really interesting about bringing back some black and white silent film with your compositions. What do you feel is making it more attractive these years?
Well, I think there is, first of all, especially if you take things like The Artist or Star Wars or whatever. It's really great for the orchestra because they can enlarge the audience through the public of cinema, and the public of cinema really do enjoy to hear a live score. It's something really special that even Spielberg can't afford to have an orchestra every time in this. So it's very special event, and that's something. And about silent films, I'm not sure. It was, I think there are some people who they really do like to see how it was, to feel this experience of being. It's like a time machine. You're getting back.
Yeah, I love to see those characters who are so expressive, 200 times expressive for showing something. And
but it's just the way that they were doing it at that time, and I'm quite sure that in 100 years ago from now, people will laugh at our way to act.
Probably. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's just normal life. But it's, I think, that there's a friend of mine who once I showed it, some films, and he said, what's really interesting with silent film, it's like a book, because you are reading the it's black and white, and then you have to imagine the colors, you have to imagine the voices, and then you have to use your imagination. But today, when you are going to commercial cinema, you have all images in color, you have all the dialogues, and the music is banging into your head saying, now you should think this and this and this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much, Gabriel. I think now we are getting to our small Q&A if we receive some questions. So we'll see from, okay, so a question from Daniel. What is your favorite part of the film, and what was your favorite part to compose?
I think it's the first time when Phantom is kidnapping Christine, and she is in his place, and then it's starting the pom 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 pom, and then she's sitting and she's afraid. She's on the bed and she's afraid, and then he's going on his knees and say, "I just took you here because I love you."
Wow, yeah, really fun part.
I feel moved a bit. Yeah.
It's a touching part for sure.
And that was really, I think, nobody can write something sincere without love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why it's special when I get to this scene.
Exactly.
We feel it, though. We feel it for sure. Yeah, and that's one of the places where there's much rubato also, and we need it. So
it's not a question of being with a metronome. It's being just a human being there, and that's my main point. Also, I always done music with musicians. It's not. I was using, even in Phantom, I was one of the first composers to use the synthesizers with classical orchestras in Montreal, but never with a computer dictating when to play.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because then we have Naomi who will be playing some Gobelin sound, and
then even the organ, and
some bending, exactly, bending pitch notes that will add to the mystery of this film.
And there is one scene also that I really do love. At the very end, I wrote the lyrics of the last song, and she's saying, you gave me the voice of an angel to sing your requiem.
So that's touching for sure. Yes, and I hope people will stay tuned next week so they can have that full experience. Since Halloween might be different this year, I think this could be something super interesting to do all together in your bubble, watching this performance either at Paramount Theater or in Kamloops, or with your at home with your computer, obviously. So we hope people will be there and watching this special production for us. All musicians are super excited. I'm really excited as well to be jumping in this score again, finally, but for conducting it for the first time in concert this time and not just preparing. So I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you, Gabriel, for
thank you so much, Dina.
the score.
Danielle. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm wondering now if Danielle could join us back.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much, both of you. It's a very enlightening conversation, and I think Dina took all my words, but basically we're so we're very much looking forward to putting on your music in this upcoming week and working with it with our own musicians here in Kamloops. And one thing that I don't think came up, but many people know that, of course, we had to change our entire season this year when COVID took over our lives, but we're very excited. This was actually the only concert that we'd originally planned, and so we're very excited to be doing it still, even in a new format digitally, of course. But we're very excited that it's part of our season as is. So, thank you so much for that. And I think our audiences are really going to enjoy watching this film, and I think hopefully it opens the door for some more of your projects in the future for us, because I know it's not just this film that you've written music for, of course.
In my back over there, one library full of my music. So.
Excellent. So again, I just want to thank, of course, all of everyone who's supported us so much, our public funders, sponsors, donors, continued support, and ensuring that we're remaining active. And I thank, of course, both of you for taking part in today's session and talking about this project. We're very, again, excited to have you both work on the project. And Dina, of course, we know and love and hear from her often, but in this case, it's so great to have a composer living, be able to talk about their music. Thanks to everyone who's watching at home for taking the time to tune in today, whether it is live or recorded later. And we hope to see you all very soon for the production of the Phantom of the Opera. Of course, if you don't already have tickets, we're welcome to grab them now. It'll be running online starting October 31st, so a big Halloween surprise for everyone. So thank you so much again, and I hope you both have a great night and stay healthy and safe, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.